Exemplary battles of the Horus Heresy, demon engines arrive to reap a bloody toll. In the war-torn annals of the Horus Heresy, continue in another exemplary battles download, this time following the Imperial Fists. G'day guys, Mac with the Outer Circle, and today we're going to be looking at the Depths of Tredecimmia. Tredecimmia? Well, in any case, we're going to be looking at this exemplary battles. This is actually the kind of exemplary battles I like seeing, and the kind of content I like seeing in the Horus Heresy in general. Something that is adding to the game. It's not adding a crazy convoluted amount of content. It's not giving us a complete new faction with heaps of horrible balance issues. It's just giving us a few of the old units that sort of disappeared with the changeover between editions. And it's giving it to us in an interesting way. So essentially what we're getting out of this is, yeah, there's a mission in here. But this is a little bit of fluff, of course, and the Imperial Fists are in there, but it's alright. It's okay using them in things like fluff. It's just the constant glut of characters that I think has people down. Now, what it's giving us is corrupted engines, which are all the old sort of Cornate Chaos demon engines. So think your Brass Scorpion, Blood Slaughterers, that kind of thing, as well as Decimators, among others. So in here you get the corrupted engine subtype, which is kind of probably the closest thing to it is the Marigal in the Word Bearers. So if you understand how that works, you have a bit of a comprehension of how these work. They're getting things like move through cover, they've got the corrupted subtype, they're generally going to be Dreadnought subtype, they're going to be immune to things like morale checks. Because of the corrupted, they're going to take instant death attacks from psychic weapons, but they take D3 wounds instead for each unsaved wound type thing going on. So it's all the stuff you would expect. Now they're unlocked by taking a Legion Praevian. So if you take a Praevian, what it means is that you may take a single unit with the corrupted engine subtype instead of a Castellax or Vorax maniple. Okay, so you don't get to have your cake and eat it too. And the Praevian doesn't join the unit. But the unit does gain the Legiones Astartes of the Praevian. So there's a few weird quirks there. But because most of these are Dreadnought unit type, I think the better choice would have been to take the Mortifactor console in this case. Because that is actually the Dreadnought babysitting console, whereas the Praevian is the Automata babysitting console. Where you fall on it, I don't know. But Automata type versus Dreadnought type, I would lean towards the Mortificator myself. Now, the Legiones Astartes does make some of these pretty scary, and, well, some are pretty scary to start with. So there's a bit of extra cybertheurgic added into here now, a little bit more Dark Mechanicum themed stuff. I'm fine with it, it's nothing too crazy that I could see, but I'm not a seasoned Mechanica player, and I don't know their rules super well this edition, because they're one of the few factions I've really not played a lot of game against. Marines, I've played a fair few games against. Played a few against Custodes, not many as well. And of course, Solar Auxilium Militia. So I don't feel that I should comment too much on Mechanicum because I really don't have the knowledge this edition yet to make any fair judgments. The Etheric Dominions, so we've got 2 extra Etheric Dominions. So you remember we had a lot of these from the Demons of the Ruined Storm, little allies matrix that we got. So the first of these is a Etheric domain called Heedless Slaughter, and the other is the Malevolent Artifice. So the Malevolent Artifice, that is going to be pretty much a must-take on some of these units, I think. The ability to charge slightly more efficiently, slightly better on the Heedless Slaughter, yeah, that's good and all. But Malevolent Artifice, rerolling all failed armor saves taken against wounds resolved at a strength lower than your toughness, that is very strong. So, yeah. Anyway, it starts with Lords of War for some reason. We get the Khitan Demon Engine. Now, out of the two Lords of War, this and the Greater Brass Scorpion, I think this is definitely the stronger contender if you're going to go off that. It's essentially all of the traits or quirks of an Imperial Knight, and in fact has the Knight subtype among others, with none of the drawbacks, so it's probably in many ways the best Knight currently in the Horus Heresy 2.0. Yes, it is unable to take any of those sort of household quirks that Knights can take to boost them in other ways, like, oh, it's not Dolorous. But decent war gear, decent stat line, I think it's quite good. If you had the points to take one, it is probably going to do all right, especially compared to a regular Knight. The Greater Brass Scorpion, on the other hand, this one is in a weird spot, okay? And the reason it's in a weird spot is it's not really a close combat monster, and it's not really a firepower beast, and it is 440 points. That's a lot, especially for how this thing actually functions, because the Scorpion Cannon and the Despoiler Cannon, the Hellmaw Cannon, so these three items are what it's armed with. Now if we scroll down here, okay, the Scorpion Cannon, 30 inches, strength 5, AP 4, assault 9, pinning shred. Yeah, it might cause the occasional pinning, that's not terrible. The Despoiler Cannon, strength 10, AP 3, ordnance 1, blast 3 inches, sunder, rending, brutal 3. It's a Vindicator, basically. Then, of course, the Hellmaw Cannon, template, strength 7, AP 4, assault 1, torrent 6 inches. I know from having played so much Salamanders that sucks. So really, this thing has a situational pinning weapon. It's about the equivalent of 2 and a bit Marines with a with rotor cannons, I guess. That's something. But the Despoiler Cannon is really what you're taking it for, which is just, for all intents and purposes, a Vindicator. Is that enough to sustain a over 400 points model? Now, it has the Hellcrusher cores, which are strength 10, AP 2, melee, brutal 2, and sunder. Yeah, they can instant kill, like toughness 5 stuff, but you're only weapon skill 5. And against something like Custodes, for example, the things you want to be striking at weapon skill 10, you're only going to hit them on 4s at best. So you're going to be sinking an awful lot of points into this thing just to use that. It's probably not worth it. Now, where I come down on the debate of what units are the best units to take, it's not necessarily what is the strongest unit. Because, I mean, this thing's fine, but 440 points is definitely overpriced comparatively to the Khitan. I think 380-ish points would probably be a lot better for the Greater Brass Scorpion. That's just my opinion. What I think of when I look at these units is, what is the best value for your dollar? If you're only going to have the money to buy one of these things, what would you put in your army? Out of these two models, I would take the Khitan Demon Engine any day of the week. Looks-wise, though, I'd probably just take a Greater Brass Scorpion and call it the Khitan, to be honest. But out of all the units in this book, well, the next one we get to is Blood Slaughterers. 110 points each. You're basically getting a boxed Dreadnought stat line, Furious Charge of 1, Move Through Cover, Malefic Aegis. They've got 2 Slaughterer Blades. Now, the Slaughterer Blades is the problem on the unit, because here they are. Strength User, so Strength 7 on the charge, AP 3, Melee, Rending 6+. These things are going up against Contemptor Dreadnoughts with Gravis Power Fists, which are going to be Strength 9, AP 2, Brutal 3, versus Strength 7, AP 3, Rending 6+. They are infinitely more killy on a Contemptor Dreadnought, and yes, these are cheaper, but 2 Blood Slaughterers comparatively to a Contemptor Dreadnought is awful. The Impaler Harpoon, and the way these things worked in general, was a lot better in Imperial Armor 13, which I will talk about soon on the channel. They were a lot better in Imperial Armor 13. But the Impaler Harpoon essentially has the rule that, you can shoot a unit with this, and it used to be that it would drag the unit to you, or drag you to the unit type thing, to start a close combat. And a unit may reroll charge rolls when attempting a charge with it now, instead of just firing it and getting this charge. But now when a unit is one or more wounds are caused by this weapon, the affected unit decreases initiative by 1 until the end of the subsequent assault phase. Which might be handy, but most things that are going to strike this unit that can hurt it, the things you want to slow down, they're going to be striking it with melter bombs. So they're going to be striking last anyway, so it doesn't really matter to them. And this thing just, yes, it'll chop through squads of power armor, that is great. Everything in 2.0 chops through squads of power armor, so it is not an achievement to take something like a Blood Slaughterer. And this is one of those instances where you run into something like Pyroclasts. They will hand this thing its ass. Whereas my Pyroclasts really struggled with Contempt of Dreadnoughts. Yes, they could do the job. Yes, they were strong against them in many ways, melter guns and heavy melter bombs. But they have a 2+ armor save, so this thing can't instant kill them. They all have 2 wounds each. This thing's only strength 7. And its attacks are obviously AP3, as I mentioned. And they're going to strike it back with melter bombs, which cause instant death. And they only need 2 wounds to go through and get a decent roll on them, and this thing's toast. And if you're throwing 10 melter bombs, chances are you're getting those wounds through. So the Blood Slaughter has issues. I think if its primary attack was rending 4+, or breaching 4+ maybe instead of rending, would probably be a lot better. Because then at least half of the attacks that it makes are going to go through 2+ saves. And it probably needed Furious Charge 2. So strength 8 on the charge to really ram home the fact this thing needs to charge for success and cause those instant death hits. But unfortunately, as it stands, is actually a surprisingly weak unit, despite having a profile that on the surface looks fantastic. Then we get to the Decimator. Now, the Decimator is the standout unit in this booklet. Movement, same as a Marine. Weapon skill 5, it's pretty good, this edition, weapon skill 5. It's not as good as weapon skill 6, but it's good. Strength 8, toughness 7. Okay, a Leviathan's toughness 8, so not quite up there on toughness. 7 wounds is solid. Initiative 4, surprisingly fast. 5 attacks, leadership 8, save 2+. Hammer of Wrath 2, Furious Charge 2, and Malefic Aegis 5+, so a 5+ invulnerable save. Has moved through cover and has 2 inbuilt siege cores. Now, the Hammer of Wrath is interesting on this. Strength 8 is an important number for Hammer of Wrath because it is instant death. So that is quite strong. The Strength 8 going up to Strength 10 on the charge becomes very spicy because its main weapons are the Decimator Siege Core, which is Strength User, Melee, Brutal 3. This, unlike Contempt of Dreadnought, can instant kill things like Custodes, anything toughness 5, and that includes the battle-hardened units. So, Salamanders, Praetors with Mantle of the Elder Drake, the Huskals of the Imperial Fists, Iron Hands, Morlocks, these units that are hyper strong, resilient units that cause great difficulty in the game to kill. This can do it. And yeah, it's got ranged options, but who's taking the Butcher Cannon, Soulburner, Petard? Ooh, AP4 shooting and very little of it. No, I think I'm good. I will take the 6 attacks going up to 7 on the charge at weapon skill 5, strength 10, brutal 3. I think they're going to be a lot more effective. Especially once you start combining this with the different Legiones Astartes traits. You put this thing into World Eaters, you're at 8 attacks now on the charge at least. If you put this thing into anything traitor, because it is traitor only, so you can run it with loyalist legions that have turned traitor. Don't think it's only the traitor legions that can take it. Well, you can do some pretty spicy stuff here. So I think the Decimator, and I think a Decimator that is Renegade Iron Hands would be pretty pretty rough. Toughness 8 outside of close combat. I think you get it will not die as well. Like, just I'm terrifying. So this is the standout unit in the book by far, because if you're going to spend your money, you're going to spend Forge World level money. You can buy a Blood Slaughterer and a bit, I think, for the price of these. I think they're about 2/3 the price for one Blood Slaughterer in dollars to a Decimator. I'm just going to buy the Decimator. Blood Slaughterers are not going to be worth the points unless you got fast attack that you just want to fill up with something and you don't care, and maybe you have them laying around already or something. Cool, go for it. And rule of cool will always be a thing. Don't feel like you can't just take a unit and have fun with it because you just like the unit. I do it myself. But if I was going to be spending money on any of these units, I would personally pick the Decimator. It is by far the strongest unit here, points proportionally. It's actually surprisingly within striking distance of the Khitan, which is a superpowered knight for all intents and purposes, but costs 180 points more, something like that. So yeah, it is the standout. And of course, there's a bit of a gallery in here. Doesn't show Decimators, it just shows Brass Scorpions and Blood Slaughterers. I always like the Blood Slaughterers too as a model. I do have one, I've just never built it. And the mission is, it's a mission. So these missions aren't too bad in the these exemplary battles necessarily. Some of them are better than the core rulebook missions. But anyway, that's it. This is the sort of stuff I do like to see with 2.0. So more stuff like this would be great. But of course, the system is in dire need of a balance FAQ. I will die on that. And yeah. Anyway, thank you all for watching. Mac with the Outer Circle. Please give me your thoughts and feedback in the comments below. And I look forward to seeing you all on the next video.